So, as we come across the line, finish lap 1, Oscar Sandberg leads the way. About 2.5 seconds from Dominic Olivier in his Hurricane. Then Grant Willamot, 3rd place in his Aston. These top 3 seem to have got away reasonably unscathed. Chris Corbin has actually made quite a few places in his BMW, managed to make his way up to 4th. Well done him. Damien Yearwood then in his Bentley in 5th place, swiftly followed by Jamal Badou. These guys seem to have had a pretty good start, but this is where things have started to unravel for Wilhelm at this corner here. He's back in 7th place, quickly looking to get back up to the top. 2nd and 3rd, of course, but might be slightly seething after his start, which he turned. He wants to get past Grant as quickly as possible after his teammate Sandberg is post-haste. It's just heavy on the brakes there. Perhaps a smidge later than he should have been. Our pit window has just come open, so you might just start to see some drivers dive into the pit, but we'll stay with Grant and Wilhelm for now. So the Bentley will have the tow going up the straight. Perhaps they'll be thinking about a move going into the end of the straight. If they do now. No precise behind. Perhaps he's lining up a move going into the end of the home straight into turn 1. That would be my best bet. Then what do I know? I've just commented, not the one racing. So coming around the final turn. Gap staying much halfway through the lap. The Aston Martin just running a little bit wide. He's just going to poke his nose around the outside. Bit of a better run on the butt. Wilmot does defend. Just forcibly to poke his nose around the outside, but thinks better of it. So try and get on the exit of turn 2, coming around turn 3. Bentley's slithering slightly around there. Wilmot manages to hold him off without too many dramas. And the green light is gone. Away we go. The GT3s try to break away from the GT4s as quickly as possible, coming down into turn 1. There's going nearly 3 abreast. In fact, 2 Aston Martins. Olivier has managed to get a jump on Willamot. He's got a better start coming down to turn 1. And then Sandberg actually runs a bit wide there, perhaps because the opportunity to Weirich. There's contact between Weirich, Sandberg, and Olivier as well. Olivier's managed to get the jump around turn 3. This is a great start. Weirich has dropped back to easily P9 or 10. They all, the rest of the pack, seem to make it through rather without any calamities there. To gain his place on Constantinidis, who led the charge for the GT4s. But now Damien Yearwood, Derek Rudder, and Johan Badou start to make their way back through.
The top 2 of the GT4s are just beginning to check out from Neil Addison at the moment. So look for those 2 to have a race-long battle, or at least a first stint battle, through a pit stop window, and it's basically who will be brave enough to make the jump first.
Just stick with Keith Constantinidis. Constantinidis right under his rear wing in that Aston Martin. Just poking his nose in where Keith perhaps just doesn't want it quite yet. Welcome to Season 2 of the Caribbean ACC Championship here in 2021. This, to kick things off, first round we're at Zandvoort for some lovely Dutch narrow goodness. We'll kick off with just some driver changes really. We've of course had some updated driver lists coming into the new season. We've had a lot of names join the grid. Still got the old ones in as well, so I'll kick off with the GT3 Pro drivers, get stuck in. Wilhelm Weirich, the number 1 car, he was our winner of last season. He did very well to overcome Oscar Sandberg and get that #1 spot for the season last year. He switched from the Bentley to the Porsche 991 GT3R as well. First off, a new name, Thomas Jelinek as well. A couple of new boys coming in, like Truls Solberg, Nico Abel also joined to the end of the last season as well. Dominic Olivier, another one who is a familiar face around these parts. Grant Willimot, first British driver of the grid. We have a couple of British drivers scattered throughout, as well as Dan Desaro, a new name to perp up for Turn 1 Pro. Jeremy Gonzalez and Chris Corbin, the Apex Fever team, choosing to stick with the trusty Bentley Continental GT3. Familiar names from last year. Chris Corbin did finish in 3rd place in the GT3 Championship. He'll be looking to perhaps go a couple of places better this year. Jelani Patterson, another Turn 1 team member, as well as Santeri Rantala, a new name to bring a new car to the grid as well, the Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo, a popular car amongst ACC fanatics, but the first to use it in the CSM Championship as a competitive car. So those are your GT3 Pro drivers. A lot of Turn 1 members in here. This is a Turn 1 powered championship, so expect a couple of their drivers in here. I'll go into more depth in that later on in the race. Moving on to the GT3 Pro-Am drivers. First up, we got Paul Rees, and opting to go for the McLaren 720S GT3, a new name again to the CSM team, CSM grid I should say, with Crave Powerhouse Rees Racing Team, plugging his own name in the racing team. That's the only way you got to do it. Next up, James Dill, again in the McLaren, representing the Bad Back Racing. I dare say he's making reference to his age, but I'm sure his back is lovely. Damien Yearwood then, a familiar name and co-coordinator of CSM and this lovely racing series, also in the McLaren 720S, representing the Turn 1 Pro-Am team. Brian Mandeville, who is unfortunately not racing today, but he will be in a couple more of our races later on. He'll be the lovely man in my ear who will be telling me that I'm talking rubbish and telling me to move on whenever I do that. Moving on, the first BMW of the series to come across, the only BMW, sorry, again, talking rubbish. There are 3 BMWs, but the first BMW GT3 Pro-Am. Andre Brendel, the Czech Republic. Then Ryan Quinn and Florian here, moving further down the list. AJ Jones and Charlie Martin, familiar names for those watching CSM last year. Charlie Martin, of course, a real-world racing driver, recently got a contract with the Praga Racing Team in the Brit Car Endurance Championship, and we're very lucky to have her with us for another season. AJ Jones as well, a Turn 1 Bentley driver. Omar Badou and Jamal Badou, the namesakes, driving the Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo, both representing front yard racing. And then moving further down, Ryan Hunt in his Huracan GT3. Oswin Wilson, again in the final McLaren 720S. Simone Cabelli, unfortunately, due to some wheel issues, has had to drop out of this race, but he'll be back hopefully for some future rounds. And then Stian Gulbrandsen bringing in the rear of the GT3 crowd. Moving on to the GT4s, Dami Ao, the GT4 champion of last year, deciding to stick to his trusty Turn 1 AMG. Oscar Sandberg, he did come second last year in the GT3 and overall championship to his teammate Wilhelm Weirich. So Oscar perhaps just wanting something a little bit different, opting to go for the GT4, see if he can win that and take the championship away from Dami, is probably his aim. Then Kirk Heath as well, another Turn 1 driver with us last year, who joined halfway through, alongside Dami Ao in the Turn 1 AMG. Moving further down, we have Kevin Manning and Joel Vandervoort in their Aston Martin V8 Vantage GT4s, and Malik Martin, a new name to the CSM club as well, in his McLaren 570S GT4. And looking further down still, John Petchier in the lone Chevrolet Camaro, a popular car in the ACC fan club, but not known for its outright speed. So it'll be interesting to see how Petchier gets on in the Camaro. Again, moving further down, Dixon Hurst, familiar name from last year, opting to stick with the BMW M4, which he was in last year. And then some new names as well, Sean McBride and Iveco Gibbs, 2 Americans representing the Porsche, in the Porsche Cayman GT4 and the Mercedes AMG GT4 respectively. And then rounding things off, we've got the last three. Helle Rangsetter in the Cayman, representing Turn 1 Norway, alongside Oscar Sandberg. If you didn't guess, they're Norwegian. And then Derek Rudder and Javon Codrington in the AMG GT4 and Aston Martin, respectively. The Bajans rounding things off for the first round of the CSM ACC Championship in 2021. So, if we jump in and we can just see that Chris Corbin is currently going around the track. The GT3s are out as we speak. The way qualifying has worked, GT4s had the first 10 minutes, GT3s have the second 10 minutes. As we speak, Chris Corbin is leading the way in his Bentley, number 45 Bentley GT3, but just as I say that, Wilhelm Weirich puts in a resounding time of 1:34.8 to take the top spot away from Chris Corbin, as there's 2 minutes left. Whether Chris Corbin can get a response out of that. Wilhelm, of course, a very quick driver. He is a racing driver in real life. He's a fan of the Nürburgring. If any of you ever find yourselves there, him and Oscar Sandberg will drive you around in a taxi of sorts. It looks a lot like a GT3 RS, but it is a taxi, and you can have some fun around there. Rantala also putting in a good time, only 7/100ths off of Weirich to put it in second place in his Ferrari GT3 Evo. And Chris now 3/10ths off the pace he's going to have to seriously bring it back if he wants to stand a chance of being on the front row. Looking slightly further down, the times are reasonably spread out. Of course, we do have a mixed ability group. We don't discriminate against perhaps drivers that are new to ACC or new to sim racing, and we also cater towards perhaps the higher end drivers who enjoy the 24-hour races and have some serious respects on the ACC world. That's why this is such a wholesome community. Insert meme about wholesome. Moving further down, fourth place, Jeremy Gonzalez and Grant Willamot, some familiar names. Grant joined about halfway through last season, and he instantly made a name for himself. Always looking to fight at the front, winning a couple of the races. But he has switched car this season to the BMW, so perhaps he's having a few teething problems. It's strange not to see him in front three. But with any laps still left to run, he still has time to improve his standing. And then looking slightly further down, it seems the McLarens are not faring too well here at Zandvoort. Wilson, Dill, Yearwood and Reese. On the screen it will show as R Racing, but his name is Reese. Not faring ultimately well so far. The three of them still opting to be in the pits. They will not get another run. But Dill is out of the pits as we speak. Let's find him on the track. He has just crossed the line to put himself 15th, 2.5 seconds off the pole time of Weirich. Still to cross the line is here. He's the closest to do so. He's just going through the Audi S, although I believe that chicane may have been renamed since I last looked at the track map. Just coming into the last set of corners in his Lexus GT3, the number 36. So whether he will improve, we will wait and see. Although he just seemed to be going a little bit gingerly, so whether he is just going to bail into the pit lane at the end and wait and see. It's pulled off to the right, and he looks like he is going into the pit lane. Yes, so he will not complete his lap. Next to come round is the number 9 of Brendel in his BMW, using all of the curb. See him sweep through the final corner, using all of the exit and a little bit more onto the grass. We'll manage to see if he manages to improve upon his time. He does not. He sticks in 10th place. Next across the line, the number 92 of Gulbrandsen stays in 6th place. Number 22 bails out of it on the final corner. Grant, there's actually been that's actually a rather large accident to come out of the final corner. Perhaps Grant slowed down or tried to pull into the pit lane. And the V12 Aston of who is in the V12 Aston? I think it might have been Tesaro. Just collects him on his way through. So there we have it. That was qualifying. I'll run through the full grid in just a second. We have I do believe we will have Chris Corbin joining us in a couple of seconds once he's set up his car, and he will be able to talk us through how he's been doing in the off-season and what he's expecting from this new format as well, which I'll again come on to. We've been blessed with a new format for this championship. So, to kick things off, Chris Corbin is now with us. Chris, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm all good, thank you. How would you sum up your qualifying? You're in third place. On the inside, going into turn one, you feeling confident?
I'm happy. I'm more happy with third than second because of that inside line. I had the time for pole, but I caught a car in front of me, and unfortunately, it was too late to get another lap in after that.
So yeah, just good point actually you just mentioned there. This track is very narrow. There's a lot of cars on the grid, multi-class. How do you think it's going to go trying to get past the GT4s?
It's going to be very chaotic. I think it's going to take a lot of patience from the GT3 guys, especially if they're in a heavy fight. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I've never been on a track this small with a multi-class race, so it'll be quite an experience for myself.
Yeah, I have to say all the drivers are feeling the same as you. So just quickly, briefly touching on last year, finished third place overall in the championship, hoping to improve, I assume.
Yes, absolutely. I've
Do you
made
think you got it in you?
I've made some progress over the winter months, so I'm hoping to really take the fight to the guys up front this year.
So you've been busy practicing, getting in as many series as you can over the winter.
Absolutely, yes.
As I noticed you in the Sim Grid 8 Hours yesterday, you proved to be doing quite well. Came second, obviously slightly different car to what you're currently in. But off the back of that, second place, you must be feeling confident.
I'm going to take that and build on that for today's race. We came second, and I set the fastest lap of the race in our split, so I hope that can translate over to today.
Yes, well, the final question from me, Chris. Who's your rival in today's race? Who do you think is going to be your ultimate challenge?
I think the two guys in front of me are probably going to be the toughest ones to beat. Rantala and Virich are exceptionally quick, so I'll be doing good work if I can beat the two of them.
Perfect. Well, Chris, I wish you the best of luck in the race. It's great to hear from you. Thank you for joining us, and maybe we'll speak to you after the race as well.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
So, that was Mr. Corbin, third place on the grid, and he's going to be looking to improve as much as possible. So, if we will quickly run down the grid order, we'll have a couple of minutes while they do their warm-up lap as well. So, first place in his Porsche, Virich, he managed to put in a resounding time to just pip it from Rantala, who's lining up next to him, but I think it's about 0.07 of a second in the end. Corbin, a further 0.3 back in third place. Of course, he's seeing the two in front of them has the biggest challenges. But then I know Gonzalez and Willemot will have something to say about that. We'll see how that race gets on. So yeah, as I said, Gonzalez and Willemot lining up 4th and 5th, the Bentley and then the BMW M6. Gulbrandsen, the highest place... Sorry, I was about to tell a fib. Rantler's the highest placed new boy to the grid, but Gulbrandsen second in the Bentley, the number 92. Olivier lining up in the Aston, just behind, alongside here in the Lexus, who did join about halfway through the season last year. So with some valuable experience, he's going to be looking to push up through the grid as fast as possible. Then in 9th, Jamal Badou in his switch to the Mercedes AMG this year. Last year he was in the Aston Martin, so of course the guys have chosen a couple of new cars. In 10th, we have Brendel. And then in 11th, Charlie Martin as well. Sticking to choose with the Bentley for this long. In 12th, Ryan Quinn. And in 13th, Truls Solberg. Another new name to add from the Turn 1 roster. 14th place, start of the McLarens. Wilson alongside Dill. Two McLarens will be ones to watch. There'll be some tight racing between these, I can guarantee. And then Dan Tesaro in the V12 Aston, the hashtag Brexit car. I'll try and fit in a joke about that at some point. I'll think of one, I'm sure. Omar Badou in 17th. The fellow Badou slightly further back from the namesake Jamal. He'll be looking to get off as quickly as possible. Damon Yearwood and then Reese in the final GT3 cars in the McLaren. So the McLaren's not faring too well around Zandvoort, as I mentioned earlier. They'll be looking to make their way up and just capitalise on any mistakes of the other cars. So as the drivers set up on their warm-up lap, I'll just quickly run through the GT4 grid as well. So Oscar Sandberg has managed to stick it on pole. Well done him. He's continuing as he left off in a few of the races last year and has had many a bit of practice on ACC so far. Kirk Heath lining up next to him in second place. Kirk has had a couple of eventful races, to say the least, last year in the GT4, but he's got some of the most experience in this car out of the field, so he's going to be one to watch against Sandberg throughout the race. Dami Ayo, last year's champions, kicking things off in third place. He managed to win the season last year with just blistering consistency. He was the one guaranteed to finish the race highly and without any sort of dramas to his name. Then Javon Codrington in the Aston Martin GT4, a very nice looking Aston, the Fanatec sponsor. Further back, Van der Valk, again in the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin is considered a very nice, easy to handle GT4 Aston Martin car. Considered amongst the pros to be one of the best all-rounders. And a good place to start if you're at all interested in GT4s. Then Petchier, I should say, in the Camaro. I'm intrigued to see how the Camaro gets on at Zandvoort. One for more straight line speed and raw power in the true American way. So I'm intrigued to see how it gets on with some corners. Of course, it is a racing car. It might do all right. Then Kevin Manning in the Aston Martin, his trusty steed. In the off-season has been working hard to get to grips, further to grips with this car. He did also use it in the season last year, experimenting with it. Then McBride in a Porsche Cayman GT4, a very colourful Porsche Cayman GT4 at that. And then just behind him, Rangsetter, Sandberg's teammate, the Norwegian Turn 1 Syndicate. Just coming towards about halfway through the lap. Then Malik Martin in the McLaren GT4. Derek Rudder, a usual name for those in the CSM world. And then that does round out, in fact, the full grid. I do believe Wilson has teleported to the pit lane, so I think he perhaps struggled to get off the start line and has been teleported to the pit, so he will start from the pit lane. That is very unfortunate for him. But that ties in nicely to the going back to the start of the grid. The drivers are just getting their final bit of temperature into their brakes. Side by side, 2x2, Noah's Ark formation if you're crofty.
Green light. Go, go, go.
Oh, the race has already started. The line was a lot quicker than I expected, and that is the start of the 2021 ACC Championship for CSM. It is looking very lively, going 3 wide into the second row of the field. There's a little bit of contact. Looking further back, Chris Corbin and Gulbranson just a little nudging. There doesn't seem to be too much drama looking through the field. Still 2x2 in place. There's a yellow flag slightly further back. That is the number 8, I believe, of Reese, and the 86 has managed to catch up from leaving the pit lane, so there will be some drama for those two. Still 2x2, looking at Dill and Tazaro. Dill just dropping back slightly further. Now only just managed to get into single file. There seems to be very, very minimal incidents. Look at the first turn so far. It looked very good to see. Just quickly looking back to GT4, seeing how they got on. Kirk Heath has managed to jump Oscar Sandberg for the lead. Oscar just giving him a little look as we speak. Looking back, there doesn't seem to be any serious faults of any drivers, although there was a yellow flag slightly further up the field. I believe that was for the GT3 of Wilhelm Weyrich, I believe, has dropped back. Is that the Porsche Weyrich? It is the Porsche Weyrich. He has seen an incident, most likely with Rantala or Corbin, because Rantala has also dropped back quite considerably. As we also see, there's more commotion as well as the AMG Mercedes of, I believe that might be Jamal Badou, and the Lexus of here, I believe that was. So it's all drama on the first lap. First couple of corners were good, but then they forgot they were in a race and decided to take each other out. So, flicking back to the front of the GT3 grid now, Chris Corbin is currently in the lead. Maybe that pre-driver's interview just gave him some luck. I'll take credit for that. Second place, Grant Willamot, just followed by Olivier and Gulbranson. Jamal Badou managed to jump up into 5th place, who were restarting a P9. That is a very good start from Jamal Badou there. So it was, in fact, I believe, Omar that had the trouble with here. It was. But sticking with the front 3, they're very close together now. The Bentley of Gulbranson just having a look at Olivier, but can't get too close. Of course, Zandvoort is a very difficult track to try and pass in. But while everyone is battling, this does make it slightly easier for Corbin to try and escape. He's pulled a 1.7 second gap from Willamot. So the more people fight, the more he'll be looking to capitalise on that. Of course, looking slightly further back, running down through the order. As I said, Jamal Badou and Gonzalez having a little ding-dong. AMG versus Bentley. Brendel has managed to jump a couple of places, it seems, just a lot, as well as Charlie Martin. Tesauro, again, he did start towards the back of the GT3 field, but has made a good 6-7 places in the trusty V12 Vantage. A bit of a difficult car to drive, and especially on Zandvoort, one which is the V12 obviously famed for straight line speed in his Brexit mobile. Jules Solberg following him, followed by Dill and Eward. Rantala, who is currently going side by side with Quinn, just up the inside into turn 1, seems to make the move stick. Rantala will be looking to get to the front of the grid as soon as possible. But then Vyrick as well, the number 1 car, wants to get back as well as soon as possible. Very unlike Vyrick to suffer at the hands of a mistake or perhaps an incident. So I'll be interested to see how he gets back through. And then Omar Badou in here bringing up the not quite the rear of the GT3 field, because the number 86 of Wilson is still trying to pick his way through the GT4 crowd. Just perhaps getting in the way. Very difficult to overtake, as is Reese, in fact. Flashing of the lights, the McLaren's trying to make their way through past the Aston. Nice and easily done. No obvious signs of time loss for Reese, and it didn't look like there was for Wilson trying to get past Van der Valk as well. And amongst all, while we were looking at the GT3s, there was a big change for the lead. The GT4s, Javon Codrington is now he's making life difficult for Wilson to get past what he's doing, but he's now in the lead of the GT4s. Sandberg must have had an incident. He's dropped down to 5th place in the GT4s, 4th place I should say. Van der Valk from Petchia, so the top 3 a reasonable change around. I think Sandberg has just dropped down, allowing the others to jump up. Oscar Sandberg now in 4th place, perhaps just struggling to get to grips with the GT4. I'm sorry we did not see what happened amongst all of the drama. And then Kevin Manning just behind him, looking to capitalise on any more mistakes. The rest of the GT4 field looking slightly more spread out. McBride, AO, Rangsetter, Heath. Although Kirk Heath's also dropped quite far back, so it must have been Heath and Sandberg that came together if they have both dropped down. And then Rudder and Martin bringing up the rear of the field, not too far off the main pack, so any mistakes and they'll be looking to capitalise. So, jumping up to the GT3 field, Chris Corbin has managed to make a break for it. He's now managed to make a gap about 5 seconds, but Willamot is defending from Olivier for 2nd place. So while we just have a look at the them toing and froing, I'll just quickly explain the new format we've got. Last year, of course, it was mainly 1-hour races with the odd 2-hour race thrown in every now and again. This year, slightly different format. In fact, we just see the Mercedes AMG of Jamal Badou running wide. No real dramas. I think he probably just outbraked himself. The new format, first race, it's split into 2 races now. A 20-minute sprint race that we're in now, so this is probably why there are so many comings together going on. Each battle for position is worth points. It doesn't matter when you make the move, but the earlier you do it, especially around a track like this, the more chance you have of defending and holding onto the position. So 20-minute sprint race, and then there'll be a 40-minute feature race after that with a reverse grid, which will spice things up, especially in a track which is famously very difficult to overtake. Of course, the GT4s will still be behind the GT3s. The GT4s aren't in front of them, don't worry, we're not that mad. But of course, that means whoever finishes in last place in the GT3s will be in first for GT3s, and then the same for the GT4s as well. Just adds an element of spice to things. Just also a chance to experiment with something F1 were too chicken to try out. So, as we look at things, a little bit of a nudge there from Olivier on Willemot. I believe that would probably be classed as a push to pass. Just outbraked himself, flashed the lights from Willemot. He's not happy with that, and that's also allowed Gonzalez to get right under that BMW rear wing. Olivier just managing to scarper off. Bit rude there from Olivier. He's given the place back. Yep, good man. But now he's also got to watch out he doesn't give place to Gonzalez. Gonzalez tries round the outside, has the inside for the next turn, manages to make it stick. Can Olivier just get the cut back? He gives it a go. Bentley just coming across the nose of the Aston Martin. So Olivier, amongst all that, tried to give the position back to Willemot. He knew he'd messed up. Is also inadvertently given the place to Gonzalez. That is not worked out well from Olivier. And amongst all that, Chris Corbin managing to escape even further and just started to come up on the back of the GT4s, but still paying attention to GT3s. The BMW of Brendel having a massive look up the inside of Jamal Badou, manages to make it stick as well. That was a good move from Brendel there. He came from about 2 car lengths back, just managed to get it stopped in the brakes, turn in, and of course the banking at turn 1 does help with that quite a lot. And Charlie Martin also having a look at the Mercedes AMG of Jamal Badou. Jamal's got to watch out here. Of course, with one move being made, it's very easy for other cars just to try and sneak through. The space opens up, you just got to dive and just hope the car sticks. Although Jamal getting a big slide on through there. He's clearly been going to a Japanese drifting school, but it's not the quickest way around there. Charlie Martin manages to sneak through, and no time lost with an overtake. She'll be very happy with that. Jamal perhaps just getting a wheel on the grass or just a bit hard on the brakes and a change of elevation, sending the rear of that Mercedes round. Well done for holding on to it, sir. I tip my hat to you. That was a good save. I can't argue that. But unfortunately, he has lost a place. The V12 Aston of Tesaro will be looking to jump on that if he can. The Ferrari of Rantala now looking to just try and make a move on Solberg, just getting in his mirrors. Perhaps he'll get a run out of the hairpin. Not quite. Looking to the outside, just making himself as big as he can in those BMW mirrors. He may have the run coming down to turn 1, so we will stick with Rantala and Solberg and see if there's any moves to be made. Just having a little look. I believe he's too far back to try anything. Yeah, he is a little bit too far. So further back, of course, we have Dill. It's just made a couple of places amongst all that drama. Is McLaren. It's currently the highest placed McLaren, and behind him, just a second behind, Vyrek, just making his way through from that drama-filled start for him. He was one of the last cars on the grid, including the GT4s, but he managed to pick himself through. Now hunting down Dill, and then Quinn here. And Badou just having a little scrap with Damien Yearwood. Yearwood just dropping back slightly, so I believe Badou made the move on Yearwood and is now trying to escape. There's a little bit of damage on Damien Yearwood's McLaren. There's a couple of scuffs on it, so I'm wondering whether he's had some drama along the way. It's just looking a little worse for wear, but no serious signs of misdoing. And then Wilson and Reese just towards the back of the GT3 grid, probably suffering some offs and spins amongst the tight, twisty nature of Zandvoort. So, to the front of the GT4s, Sandberg has managed to get his way back into P2 of the GT4s. Javon Codrington still in the lead in his Aston Martin, so Sandberg having a probably fueled by anger and rage has managed to bring his way back. A little bit of a wiggle there from Codrington, I should say, just leaving the inside hairpin. Sandberg thought he could have a look. Porsche Cayman, straight line speed, not its forte, more of a handling car. The Astons have it trumped in that regard. But Sandberg currently in an Aston Martin sandwich. It'll be interesting to see if he can try anything on the brakes of the Porsche, perhaps just show his nose where the Astons aren't expecting it. And perhaps just try and put them off. In fact, he has managed to do that. Codrington running wide and allowing Sandberg and Van der Velde through. Oh, Codrington will be kicking himself for that. It seemed like an unforced error there. Just running wide onto the gravel, let them through. Sandberg will say thank you very much and snap that up. You'll bite your arm off if you give them that sort of opportunity. So, Sandberg leading from Van der Velde and Codrington in the GT4 field. Slightly further back, Peccia in the Camaro, still in 4th place. He's managing to hang on to the coattails of the top 3. With any sort of mistakes like that, again, he'll snap them up. Chris Corbin has managed to extend his lead massively. I guess there's been a massive amount of infighting amongst the GT3s. In fact, there is a big crowd of GT3s just making their way through, coming past Malik Martin. So we've got Brendel has managed to make his way up into 4th place. In fact, there's a huge bit of contact. God, I think Brendel tried to take the inside. The Bentley of Gonzalez also tried to look up the inside, but just didn't quite manage to make it stick. Then, of course, the McLaren of Martin seemed to just have nowhere to go. Very unfortunate for Martin. He may have some serious front-end damage on that McLaren. It looked like a big hit, T-boned Brendel. That was very unfortunate. There was a big coming together there. But the rest of the field seemed to make it through relatively unscathed. So Charlie Martin has managed to make her way up to 4th place amongst all that as well. Good move by Charlie, just sort of picking her way through the wreckage of those in front of her. But now Gonzalez is really making himself known behind her, getting all up under that rear wing. A Ferrari of Rantala is also up into 6th place, capitalising on all the drama. This is a big chain of cars making their way down to the back of the circuit. The Porsche of McBride just got to be careful he doesn't get caught up in all of this. The GT4, as will Heath as well. McBride just sticking out the way, keeping to the outside. GT3's chucking it down the inside. The V12 Vantage of Tazaro running a little bit wide onto the gravel. Heath just got to be careful. Little bit of a late break there from Gonzalez. That does allow the rest of the pack to catch up. God, this is superb racing. Zandvoort throwing up some interesting dynamics only in the first 15 minutes, the first sprint race. Heath just now getting swamped by the rest of them. No changes for position thus far, but Charlie Martin has managed to just pull away slightly from Gonzalez. All the Porsche Veyrick just perhaps got caught out by a bit of early braking from, and it's God, that is left me speechless. That was a huge impact. Veyrick coming up the inside of that massive group, misjudges the braking, gets onto the grass, then takes out Rantala, manages to force him onto the gravel. Veyrick continues on over the chicane and poses a massive hazard to those who are already through the corner. Stuck on the middle of the circuit, they T-bone Veyrick. And it's all just carnage from the get-go. This is outstanding drama. I almost don't know what to say with that. There has been some people caught out by the multi-class nature of this event, I believe. In fact, yes, a little bit of contact. If we just jump back to Gonzalez. All this, this is brilliant. Sandberg just proving a little bit of, Rangsetter just proving to get in the way, just get in the grill of the GT3 cars coming through. Rangsetter runs a little bit wide, but manages to keep it together. Gonzalez and Tazaro managed to jump Martin amongst all that drama caused by Veyrick and Rattler. But Gonzalez, I think perhaps Martin was just slightly holding up Gonzalez. He's managed to pull a gap from both Tazaro and Martin. In fact, the V12 Vantage to Tazaro ran a little bit wide. Martin decided to have a little look. Has a little look again. Just managed to get herself up to the inside. Can she make it stick? Not quite. The power of that Vantage coming into play. Got to look out, Martin now to look out for the BMW behind of Truls Solberg. In fact, Martin just have a look up the inside of the Aston. Can she make it stick? She can. Great move there by Charlie Martin. Trying to go too wide further back. Solberg and Badu coming together. Just slightly back. Charlie Martin just having a look up the inside of, I think it was Damiao in the GT4. He's just got to stay out of the way. You do not want to get caught up in this. This is borderline abuse from some of these drivers. I wouldn't call it racing anymore. Some of the standards here are a bit poor, but I love it. So amongst all that, Martin back up into 4th place. Jeremy Gonzalez has managed to scarper away slightly, managed to pull a gap. Martin just now defending from Tazaro. and then followed by Solberg, Brendel and Badou, and there's also the Bentley of Gulbranson, who just ran a little bit wide there, but he's got here for company as well, and the Lexus here has made a comeback after having an off earlier in the race. This group of 6 cars now making their way towards the back of the circuit. This is great racing. I hope you lot are enjoying this at home. I'm speechless for some of it. Of course, we probably should go check on the rest of the field, but this is just superb. But it does seem to have calmed down slightly. A bit of a gap has formed. The number 165, let's find out who that is in the pits. The GT4 of Kevin Manning, I believe, has retired, so whether he suffered some irreparable damage or perhaps got taken out by someone, I'm not too sure, but he is retired to the pit lane. As we see, Chris Corbin just drive past, still in first place, a healthy gap of 25 seconds on Olivier. Corbin has done the clever thing. He got out in front at the beginning, kept it clean. No real dramas with him. All he's had to do is pick through the GT4 crowd. Olivier in second for the GT3s. Oscar Sandberg still in the lead for the GT4 class. Has managed to pull out a healthy lead on Van der Valk and Codrington, about 7 seconds. Codrington still looking to make back for his mistake earlier in the race, which he did lose position to Van der Valk. And then Petchia in the Camaro, still looking to capitalise any mistakes by them. They have pulled the gap slightly, as we also see our friendly pack of Charlie Martin, Brendel, Solberg, Badou here. Gulbranson try and come through, just making life very difficult for Petchia. He's caught pig in the middle. All that is a bit of contact between Petchia and the V12 Aston of... oh, there's still going on! Lads, hold the brakes when you have a spin. Yeah, so the Aston of Tesauro got on the grass, speared into Petchia, causing Petchia to lose control. Also a little bit of contact between Jamal Badou and Petchia on the grass as well. We'll see if any changes to position have occurred because of that. Charlie Martin still in 4th place, followed by Brendel and Solberg. So Solberg made a position due to just getting a bit eager on the throttle, the Vantage, the V12 Vantage, followed by here and Jamal Badou, who has Gulbranson for company. And as we were watching that, Chris Corbin has started his final lap of the race. There is still a healthy gap of 25 seconds, so he'll probably get on to lapping a couple of more cars before the end. Due to some driving standards, we should talk about some penalties. Rantala has earned himself a 5-second penalty amongst all that, and Kirk Heath in the GT4's a 10-second penalty as well, I imagine for some bits of contact. So Wilhelm Weirich in 12th. So let's just jump to Chris Corbin. We'll see how he gets on his final lap, just trying to pass the final few cars. He's halfway through. Now just got to bring it home. This has been a good set of points for Chris. A very unremarkable race for himself. All he had to do was keep it clean, and that's exactly what he did. He left the competition for dead, got out early. They started scrapping. Perhaps took the form of a sprint race a bit too literally. I thought that was a bit British touring car, all of that going on. Jason Plato would be proud. But coming into the last couple of corners, Chris Corbin still in the lead. The gap to second actually opened up to about 34 seconds, which is very impressive. Petchia looks like he's trying to limp home with that car. The front of that Camaro looked shot. Very unfortunate for Petchia. Just got caught out in the GT3 field amongst all that. But as I say that, Chris Corbin comes across the line to win the first sprint race of the first round here, the CSM ACC Championship. A very commanding win from Chris Corbin, but that will put him at the back of the grid for our feature race coming up shortly. McBride also crosses the line, as well as Petchia just fumbling his way to the pit lane. He manages to cross the line as well. And Olivier just coming to claim second place for the GT3s, quickly followed by Gonzalez. A very good 2 and 3 for them. Looking further back, Oscar Sandberg does take the win for the GT4s. A good result for Sandberg, having fell back. Charlie Martin in 4th place for the GT3s. A very good result for Charlie Martin, coming from about 10th on the grid to 4th, capitalising on all of that drama. The BMW of Brendel in 5th. Here in 6th, Truls Solberg coming along the line in 7th. Jamal Badu 8th. Gulbranson in 9th. My timing screen is showing that 2 people finished in 11th. No, Brantala crossed the line in 10th, but had a 5-second penalty applied, so he will probably drop behind Dill once the penalty has been applied. Jumping back to 12th, we've got Tesauro. Of course, he had that incident with Petchia has crossed the line. Wilhelm Weyrich has pulled off to the side of the track, having just finished, and Grant Willemot down in 16th as well. So Weyrich, Willemot, Rantala having a very drama-filled race, dropping down through the grid immensely. As you see, Omar Badu and Reese as well crossed the line to round out the GT3. And breathe. Right. There is a lot to unpack from all of that. That was a mental start to this championship. I don't really know where to begin. I'm kind of speechless at the sort of poor driving standards that are on display during that. I know Zandvoort's a tight track. I know it is just going to throw up some interesting dynamics and possibilities, but that was shoddy. It will be the phrase of the day. Shoddy is the way I would describe that, as all the drivers have a calm down on their in-lap. They'll have 5 minutes while reserva resets and while the feature race, the 40-minute feature race is set up. But I think everyone needs a drink. Everyone needs to calm down, because the driving standards in that were not ideal. Some great racing amongst all of that as well. There were some great moves throughout the field, trying to go around the outside and just lining moves up from a couple of car lengths back. But as well, it just not really up to par. I'm going to be honest. A bit disappointed in a couple of these drivers. Some of those moves were quite shoddy. There were a couple of honest mistakes in there as well. I saw Weyrich just outbraked himself, perhaps just lost his braking point amongst all the cars around him. Something easily like that. It's easily done. But it did in fact just cause a chain effect with Rantala and of course the other cars of Martin, and I believe it was Brendel as well. So while all the drivers sort themselves out and the server will be restarted and all the rest of it, yeah, I'm going to just head to the drivers briefing in the Discord. I'm going to see if there are any drivers hanging about and get their opinions on how things unfolded.
Like, where do you expect it to go?
Right, guys, Chris here. Just to remind you, you are on the stream, so that was... I couldn't talk over half of it. I didn't know what was going on. That was mental. So, who have we got in here? Is Chris in here? Chris Corbin. We'll talk to him first if he's in here. Yes, Chris. Good result. You just sort of ran away with it.
I'm happy with that. I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, was it just a question?
I knew I had the pace in the qualifying. I just hoped I could bring it over to the race, and thankfully I did.
Yeah, you managed to stay out of trouble. GT4s didn't prove too much of a problem for yourself. No. I believe third place, Jeremy Gonzalez is in here as well. Jeremy?
How's it going?
Yes, not bad. Third place for you, but you weren't without your dramas.
No, that was a bit hectic there just now. And a bit of a scramble, and we had a little touch up, so I thought it was all over, to be honest.
I managed to pull it back for third. What's your opinion on the driving standards so far? It's a good question.
It's been pretty good.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Somebody defending has been quite hard. But it hasn't been too bad. I guess it could have gone a little bit better in a few corners. But there was a lot of commotion after after that incident that happened.
Yeah, there was a big coming together sort of halfway through the race. Well, there was quite a few big coming togethers. I don't know if Virik or Rantala are in here yet, but they're... Virik, are you in here?
Yes, Sam. Hello.
Yes, hello. I just wanted to get your quick opinion. It looked like you sort of lost your reference point coming onto the brakes towards the later part of the circuit. Is that what happened?
No, I had the reference point, and the thing was I got hit in the first lap from behind, and from then on my rear brakes were just wasted, and I couldn't, it was very inconsistent, the braking, to be honest. So sometimes it worked and sometimes not, and at this corner it just didn't work. So sorry if I hit someone, if I just crashed into them. I'm very sorry for that, but I just had no brakes anymore.
Well, there you have it. So Rantala, he apologises to you. I'm going to quickly jump to Oscar Sandberg as well, the winner of the GT4. Oscar, but sort of lost out at the beginning. You fell down to 4th place, but you brought it back to get the win in the end.
Yeah, no, it's maybe typical this track. Maybe you can say the first corner was a little messy from maybe more people. I tried to make the safe call and just stay on the outside, and then a GT3 surprisingly come backwards. But that's how things happen. And then some what should I say? Some laps later, me and Jeff had a turn 1 incident where I think from both drivers can be seen differently. I tried to wait on him, but I think he's spun like 3 times after that, so I could not wait anymore, and letting the 4 drivers flip by, and from there on it was just head forward and don't really focus on the 18 seconds of damage. Just focus forward and try to make the places up again.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very good drive from yourself. I'd also just like to speak to Charlie Martin as well, who made the most positions during that race, managing to stay out of mostly out of trouble. Some good moves as well in there, Charlie. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I'm over the moon with that race. It was probably one of the best races I've had, actually. I think I was really focusing on trying to keep it clean, and made a few moves at the chicane, which worked out quite well. So I had some quite funny incidents. Well, I don't know, sort of trying to get through the traffic, and there were quite a few of us all racing at the same time, trying to carve our way through. But yeah, great race. Really enjoyed it. Over the moon with 4th overall and 1st in class. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's seriously well done. And I'll aim my final question sort of to everyone. Remember, you're on stream. How do you feel the driving standards were in that, if anyone wants to speak up on that?
Absolutely appalling.
I think there's a lot of people...
Nobody, like when you're driving behind somebody, people like don't adjust their braking zones at all. They just imagine you're not there and then just drive into the back of you.
To be fair, it's not very, the servers are not very smooth, so it's really hard to predict when, what's happening in front of you. It's really difficult.
Oh, I can understand a little bit, but not in slow corners.
Yeah, I think this is obviously a international server. This is an international. There are varying amounts of connectivity from all over the world. So that would be probably a factor for most of that. But yeah, driving standards were interesting to say the least. I'm going to back out of here now and let you all talk freely and swear at whoever you like. But well done on that first race. I wish you all the best of luck with your feature race to come.
Thank you.
Thanks.
green line. Give it all you got.
Because I can't see anyone at the moment.
Hate those jokes.
I didn't save my setup.
30 seconds.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. That was an
20 seconds.
eventful first race. We've had a bit of a cool down. Drivers have had a bit of discussion amongst themselves, and I dare say this race is going to be a little bit cleaner. But that is generally what happens with sprint races. Of course, that was a 20-minute sprint race, no pit stops, no nothing to worry about. It was hell for leather, go for it, see who comes out on top. This is a little bit different. 40 minutes, of course you've got to last double the length. No required pit stop, no mandatory tyre change, no mandatory anything. Of course, if you get damage, and you can still come in and do the pit stop. Now, it's worth just pointing out our reverse grid. The server decided to just say no. So our reverse grid, unfortunately, has not quite worked as much as we planned. A few teething problems of, first race back. So Malik Martin, bless him, he's on pole. So he's got the whole GT3 field behind him. So this can only go one way. I'll be intrigued to see how this happens. So we've got Malik Martin on pole, somehow followed by Grant Willamot. Then the reverse order: Damien Yearwood, Omar Badu, Tazauro in the V12 Vantage, Wilson, Quinn, Kevin Manning, Truls Solberg, Vyrick in 11th, McBride in 10th, and we've got Dami Ao in 12th as well. So Kevin Manning, McBride, Ao, all amongst the GT3s as well. So they all get swamped immediately. But this is just drama. We love the drama. So they've got a little bit of a boost. AJ Jones in 13th, Dill, Olivier Gonzalez, Charlie Martin 18th, Chris Corbin in 17th, Derek Rudder has managed to find himself ahead of Oscar Sandberg and Rantala. 22nd, we have Codrington, who is still ahead of a couple of GT3s, Goldbranson here, Omar Badu and Brendel, being the unlucky ones who have found themselves in amongst the back of the GT4s. So they will have their work cut out to try and get through as quickly as possible, and to hopefully avoid all drama. And then towards the end of the GT4s, we have Rangsetter, Van der Valk and Kirk Heath to finish off the grid. So a very interesting start is about to happen. One that I have not seen before in the world of racing. So this is a world first for televised, streamovized sim racing. GT4s are going to lead the field. A GT4 is going to lead the field away from the GT3s for the first lap. I'm not sure. Can a GT4 do 40 kilometers an hour? Could it reach it in order to set the pace? There's only one way to find out, and we're about to. And it's going to be spectacular. I hope you're ready for what is going to be a remarkable start to a race. As they come up to when the lights will go green, we wait and see.
Green light, give it all you got.
Green light, away they go. Malik swarmed by the GT3s instantly. Grant Willamot leads the way in his very patriotic BMW M6. Managed to keep it together leading into the first turn. Everyone giving each other loads of room. That is great to see, even with the GT4s thrown in. Everyone very respectful through there. No yellow flags as of yet. Looking all the way through the field, doesn't seem to be any obvious signs. Bit of a coming together there between Martin and AJ Jones. They managed to keep it together and keep going in a straight line. That's good to see. Keep it together, everyone. Kevin Manning, the GT4, just now being passed by the rest of the GT3s. Can they make it through okay? Kevin keeping to the outside. A little bit of contact with the BMW of Brendel. Brendel manages to just get back on. Chris Corbin, very sensible there. Doesn't try and go for the move or anything. Lets Brendel rejoin and then can sneak past without any dramas. Tries it round the outside of Manning as well for good measure. Onto the grass slightly. Manages to keep it together. That has, in fact, offered Dill a slight look up the inside of Corbin, but a little bit too far back. Rantala just managing to sneak through as well. So, looking further back to the GT4. In fact, that was the Mercedes of Jamal Badu just meeting the barrier head on. His car is still stationary, perhaps he's stalled, but there's some heavy damage on the front of that Mercedes. Looked like he might have tried to go up the inside of a GT4 and just met an untimely demise. He hasn't managed to get that car moving. No, he has now, managing to reverse back onto circuit. There's actually 3 yellow flags further up ahead, 3 cars involved. In fact, the accident is still happening. It looks like the Bentley of Gulbrandsen, Corbin, and that looked like a black Bentley of Charlie Martin as well, been caught out. Perhaps are coming together on the exit of the chicane. That is very unfortunate for Charlie Martin after such a strong start. She has returned to the pits. There may have been some incurable damage on that car. Whether she rejoins, we will wait and see. Funnily enough, there was less drama in that lap than the start of the other one, so we'll carry on. The number 45, Chris Corbin, also coming into the pits. Oh, Chris is going to be devastated with that after a good win last race. He's going to have to come in and get that repaired. Jamal Badou also teleports to the pit lane. I imagine the damage on that car was insufferable. So Corbin, Martin and Badou in the pit lane, unfortunately caught out amongst all of that. Meanwhile, Grant Willamot does lead the way in his BMW M6. Just making his way through, followed by Dan Tesoro in the V12 Aston. He's done well to maintain his position there. In fact, I think he's made a couple of places, as has Wilhelm Weirich. He did start 11th on the grid, managed to make his way up to 3rd in the Porsche GT3. Lovely car. In fact, there's 2 cars off just behind. Truls Solberg and Damien Yearwood finding the gravel. Perhaps a slight coming together on entry has meant they had to skip the next corner. As you have a nice chain of cars now making their way through the final banked section. Both Solberg and Yearwood seems to get away unscathed. Olivier having a look up the inside of Damien Yearwood coming down the main straight. Just a bit of superior straight line speed, it seems, from the Aston Martin. Just Yearwood having none of it, tries to throw it down the outside. It's a slight coming together, perhaps just a bit of latency there amongst the cars, but doesn't quite manage to make it stick. The McLaren does have some good brakes on it, but they're not that good. As we just come up, Chris Corbin has left the pit lane. He's managed to get his car repaired. He's staying well out of the way. He knows what can go wrong around the circuit, and there is a traffic jam formed behind. It seems perhaps someone ran wide, or Corbin caught out a few people. The fact he was there on the outside, letting them go through. I dare say someone tried it round the outside, and Corbin just sort of caught them out, really. So Solberg in 5th, leading from AJ Jones, Jeremy Gonzalez in the 2 Bentleys behind. Quinn in the Porsche in 8th, followed by Wilson in the McLaren and Omar Badou. Omar just getting his wheels on the grass on the outside of the entrance to turn 10, and unfortunately just managed to spin it round. In fact, he's still trying to get the car in the right direction. I don't think he hit the wall with any force, so he'll be able to carry on, no questions asked. But very unfortunate for Omar Badou. Just tried to push track limits a bit too much. Tried braking on the grass, car went round. And Damien Yearwood just coming in as well. Just behind. So the leaders of the GT4s, still Malik Martin. He's managed to hold on to the lead of the GT4s. Good on you, Malik. That boost from the being at the front, being on pole, really it sort of helped him out there. But I mean, he's still managed to hold on to it. Doesn't got taken out by any of the GT3s coming through. So a good show from Martin there. Kevin Manning also managed to hold on. He had a bit of a boost from the grid order, and Dami Ayo as well. They're all doing well to have avoided all dramas at the start of this race, and now they can just focus on scrapping amongst themselves. The GT3s and GT4s have spaced out nicely. Charlie Martin and Jamal Badou still in the pit lane, so I wonder if they will make a return to this race. We'll find out soon. In fact, as I say that, Jamal Badou's just dropped his car and he's on his way. So Kevin Manning having a look up the inside of Martin, going into the first turn. Managed to get alongside, got to leave the space. Just squeezes Martin to the outside of the circuit. Good racing there from the pair. They left each other room, but then didn't give any caution on the exit. So Martin, unfortunately, losing 2 places in one move there. Good opportunistic move from Manning, pulled alongside, then managed to execute flawlessly. Dami Ayo just following in the footsteps of Kevin Manning. But Martin going to be looking to just stay with them as much as he can and and perhaps capitalise on any further moves. Dami Ayo will be looking to get past Kevin Manning as soon as possible. Oscar Sandberg back up into 4th place as well. He's just run wide to let the GT3 of Dill past. Dill just going to have to make sure he doesn't get caught up as well. These 3 fighting for position. They will preferably not want to give much room, because if Dill manages to find his way past, Sandberg could easily put his Porsche in the wake of the McLaren. Martin just getting a little bit late on the brakes there. Just looking up the inside of Ayo, just perhaps looking to the outside of Manning. Manning defending into turn 14. Sorry, not turn 14, turn 12. Having to heavy braking zone coming into the chicane. Oh, a little bit of a nudge there from Damio. Well held by Manning. Well held, Manning. You didn't let that get the best of you. Still in the lead with the GT4s. Meanwhile, Sandberg managed to go around the outside of Martin. Martin had to react to that slam on the brakes. Sandberg had the lucky opportunity to go around the outside. Good opportunistic stuff from Sandberg. Sandberg now just sniffing the rear end of that AMG, just letting himself known. I think Ayo's making his intentions known early. He's getting to the right-hand side as quickly as possible. He's not letting Sandberg go up the inside of him at turn 1. Turn 1 teammate at turn 1. Oh, wow. Oh, Damio just outbraked himself slightly. Manning saw it coming, made the space for Ayo to go through, knowing he would go wide. That is very clever from Kevin Manning there. That has, in fact, allowed Sandberg on the inside for turn 3s and 4 to manage to get the move executed there very nicely from Oscar Sandberg. Ayo just outbraked himself, caused all of that. And amongst all of this, the McLaren of Dill is still in amongst this. I think he doesn't want to. He knows he doesn't want to get involved and put the car somewhere where it's going to cause a huge accident, especially after that first race. This is great racing at the front of this GT4 field. Just looking slightly further back, we have, of course, Martin in 4th place GT4s. Kurt Keith right up behind him. He'll be looking to get in. So as much as these guys fight, he has every opportunity to try and get as many positions as possible. Van der Valk and Codrington, they found themselves together on track at the first race, getting 2nd and 3rd. In fact, to find themselves together on track again. Codrington looks like he's all over the rear of his fellow Aston. He's trying to make any avenues as possible, as many avenues as possible. Just going down the straight towards turn 12, hoping he could perhaps not quite close enough. So looking slightly further back again, we have the 23 of Rangsetter, followed by McBride, the Porsche siblings. McBride just running a little bit wide, got late on the brakes there. The ABS in these GT4s is not the best in the world. If you hit the ABS, you're going to increase the braking distance quite a lot. So it's important to bear that in mind when going into any heavy braking zone. So a bit of a let off there for Rangsetter. She's managed to just start to pull away again. And then looking to the back of the GT4 field, Derek Rudder in 25th. We've had obviously with the cars transporting to the pit lane, there's a couple of cars out of position. Chris Corbin down at 26th, currently 5th on track position, but of course, he's not 5th, 26th. Jules Solberg has picked up a 15-second penalty as well, the BMW M6 driver. I imagine that was with some contact earlier in the race, perhaps something that resulted in Martin, Badou or Corbin having to go to the pit lane. Martin and Badou still not appeared, so I dare say they have retired from this race. We may see them a bit later on, but we'll wait and see on that. So Solberg, the 15-second penalty, currently that would drop him down to about 13th, 14th position. It's very tight behind him. We've got Gonzalez, Brendel and Rantala. Rantala in the Ferrari, hoping he qualified in 2nd place for the first sprint race we had, so relatively out of position down in 8th. Of course, the reverse grid would have something to do with that and the dramas that have unfolded thus far. So he'll be looking to make as many avenues as possible. I mean, with Weyrich has, I believe, I didn't make no sign of Wilhelm Weyrich up in 2nd. So Rantala's main rival, Weyrich, of course, Weyrich started on pole in the sprint race. It's arguably the quickest one-lap driver on track. Has managed to find himself up in 2nd place as well. So those two currently in very different positions, Virik and Rantala. Rantala will be looking to close the gap as much as possible. In fact, Rantala has managed to make his way past Brendel. Unfortunately, I didn't see that. I was flicking between Virik and Rantala. But I imagine a turn 12 move into the entry of the chicane to get past Brendel there. Brendel's going to have to just try and stay in the toe of Rantala and hope to perhaps try and catch Gonzalez and Solberg as quickly as possible. In fact, they are now starting to approach the rear of the GT4 field. There is Derek Rudder, just making loads of room for all the GT3s to come through. Derek's a very safe and calm driver. He knows how much room you need to give, and he knows how much you need to respect GT3s. I'm a big fan of Derek Rudder. As they make their way past, and we'll have the Lexus of here, just sort of on his own. Has a bit of a gap to work with. Quinn just behind, just trying to fend off Wilson. Wilson looked like he was having a little bit of a sniff through turn 4. But the superior traction of that Porsche just proving wise again. Derek Rudder just keeping out of the way, being nice and sensible. And then Wilson filtering through just behind him. Gulbranson shoving it up the inside of Rudder. He's on a mission to make up as many places as possible. I'll try to hunt down Wilson and Quinn. Any fighting between Wilson and Quinn, of course, brings Gulbranson even closer. And then, of course, looking further back, Omar Badu, who did have that slight incident on the corner he's going through now, funnily enough. Turn 10. Just got his wheels on the grass, spun himself round, so he's arguably a bit out of position. And then Damon Eward just behind as well. So, while I was recapping the field, Oscar Sandberg has managed to take the lead of the GT4s. Good on him. Followed by Dami Ayo and Kevin Manning. Manning has dropped about 3 seconds behind Ayo, and Ayo is about 4.5 seconds away from Sandberg. But just focusing on Kevin Manning for now, he has Kirk Heath for company. Kirk Heath, a very talented GT4 driver who was with us last season in the CSM ACC Championship. Just trying to make that Merc a presence for Kevin Manning. Kevin Manning's not one to be flustered though. We saw him versus Dami Ayo earlier in the race at turn 1. He knew he would overshoot, left him the room and got the switch back. Kevin Manning, but leaving him the room here through turn 10, knowing he's going to have the inside for turn 11. Very smart racing, but Kirk Heath might be able to get the undercut. And there's also Van der Valk in on the act as well, just having a sniff. But as we look now, Kirk Heath trying to go around the outside. It is a very possible move into turn 12. It's been done before. Kevin Manning's not giving up very easily. Very respectful driving going on there. Well done, the pair of them. They slowed down a bit more than they needed to just to give each other the room. That has not gone well for Kevin Manning. He's lost out 2 positions there from just trying to keep nice and safe. And perhaps slightly a third as well. He's run wide onto the gravel coming into out of turn 14. That was a bit unlucky there for Kevin Manning. I think he was perhaps a little bit flustered from losing positions, perhaps just trying to push that little bit extra to try and get as much time back. So Kirk Heath, a good move there, and then Van der Valk managed to capitalise on that as well. So while the leaders come through, Grant Willimot and Virik, we'll focus on them now. Grant Willimot, a turn 1 driver, as well as Virik, one of the founding fathers of turn 1. Our glorious sponsors that sponsor this championship. But there is a huge amount of contact between Virik and I couldn't quite tell who that was. I think it was one of the Aston Martins, the GT4 Aston Martins. Virik tried round the outside of turn 4. And then perhaps just got a little bit onto the marbles, just tried going around the outside, very slippery out there, got on the power, and then found himself in the middle of the pack. He's still in the wall. I dare say he's going to be quite angry with that. He found himself in the middle of the pack of the GT4s, and I think from there it was a case of unlucky placement. He just got clipped round by the Aston Martin behind, and then that just caused a bit of a Constantina effect amongst all of the drivers there. So Virik has teleported to pit lane. I dare say there was some serious damage of hitting the wall in that, so has opted to return to garage. And whether we see him again, I'm not sure. He might follow suit of Martin and Badu in sitting out the rest of this race. Very unlucky there from Virik for both of these races. For the champion of last year, don't forget he is the champion. He's not one to be messed about. He knows his stuff. But very unfortunate for him to potentially end the race like this. But a let off Grant Willimot, who has just managed to go past. Grant's still in the lead of this race. This is where he feels he should be, and to be honest, I think I feel he should be there as well. He is a very, very talented driver. Maybe I'm biased because of that flag on the car. Maybe not. Actually, if I should probably flick now to the Tesaro, because he's got the Brexit one. That's more like it. Tesaro in the V12 Aston still in third place. A very strong showing. The number 42 car, the meaning of life, meaning of everything. Just managing to hold his own. Tesaro did show a lot of promise in the sprint race before he got involved in, surprise, surprise, an incident. So good going from Tesaro to get up into third place and keep it there. He's got a sizable gap, about 5 seconds to Rantala. Rantala, of course, hunting down the front runners of the field. Very quick driver in that Ferrari. So Tesaro is going to be trying to pick off any GT4 traffic as quickly as possible. He doesn't want to be held up. He knows that Rantala will be hunting him down and one to watch out for. As we also just look back to Rantala, he does have a small gap to Brendel in 5th place, about 2 seconds. Of course, going through the GT4 field, lapping any cars, that does create a bit of drama. Usual, we've seen it creates drama, let's be honest. Just having to go offline, especially on a track like Zandvoort, very thin. The marbles do collect quite a lot on the outside of these long bank turns. If you find yourself out of position, it can send you around. And when you're overtaking a GT4, chances are you're going to have to be offline to do it. Because the GT4s do not have to yield a position. They get the blue flags, but they do not have to yield the position. It is up to the GT3s to pass them. If the GT4s want to make it easier for them, by all means they can lift off a little easier, or as Dami Ayo just did, run wide through turn 1, just make life a little easier for the faster, more aggressive GT3s. Usually considered a sensible thing to do. So, looking slightly back to 6th, the battle for 6th place that is going on. We've got Truls Solberg still with that 15-second penalty, so he's going to want to get on with the race as much as possible, try and create a gap. Behind him, we have here and Jeremy Gonzalez. They make their way past Dami Ayo. A three-way fight for 6th place currently. The BMW, Lexus and Bentley. Here, just losing out slightly from that. Gonzalez just having a little sniff, it was, through turn 10. But no dramas thus far. Solberg, and here, relatively new. Solberg did join from the turn 1 family, so he's an experienced racer. He's not one to be pushed around, but here joined us as well through last season. And Jeremy Gonzalez is a staple. He's part of the woodwork of the CSM community. He's a big rallyist for you rally fans out there. I think that's a word, rallyist. If not, I've just made it up. The Carib Rally Club that is joined with the Carib Sim Motorsport. Slight little plug, if any of you are at all interested in any dirt rally championships, and I believe there is scope to move to WRC or any future Codemasters games that come along, we do run a Dirt Rally 2 championship. There is one going on right now with prizes on offer. Go to the Discord of Carib Sim Motorsport CSM, and all the information can be found there. But yes, well, that little plug is over. Of course, go to Turn 1's Discord as well. Go there. They have a great racing community. Started by professionals in Oscar and Wilhelm. They are a great bunch of people. They cater for all abilities, just like we do. But if you want to get some serious, anything from endurance to sprint cups to any sort of series, they put teams everywhere they can. And you will guarantee to get some seat time with some very good bunch of guys. So go to Turn 1's Discord as well. Very simply, Turn 1, number 1. And you can find all your racing needs met there. But now the shilling is over, we can focus back to the racing. There were a couple of yellow flags happening there, but I am going to stay with the battle for 6th place. While that was happening, we did see here run wide onto the gravel slightly, which allowed Jeremy Gonzalez through as they come to lap Oscar Sandberg. Sandberg just keeping in the middle as he gets swamped by the Bentley and the Lexus. Gonzalez did get held up slightly just by the GT4, but manages to defend well there from here, and the position well and truly his. Meanwhile, Derek Rudder also being lapped by Sandberg there, very respectfully keeping out of the way. Gonzalez then right under the rear wing of that BMW. It's good to see a nice range of cars taking place. Turn 1, famed for their affection towards the Bentley, but they have spread themselves out a bit this year. And then the Lexus, a nice show in as well. The only Lexus on the grid. It's good to see it putting in a good performance in 8th place, fighting for 6th. Well, it is going to be net 7th, of course, if Solberg doesn't manage to pull out a 15-second gap on them, which I find unlikely given the on-track nature of these three. Ooh, Gonzalez just having a little look up the inside of Solberg, perhaps brake just a little bit late. But he's got a superior run on him coming down into turn 12. Solberg, though, defending wisely, but he's just got to watch out now. Gonzalez could easily lose out to here, who had a little sniff there, but manages to close the door on him on the exit. This is turning into a very nice battle. Good to see them being nice and respectful. The drivers have spread out quite a lot compared to the sprint race. There's not really many chains of drivers. These three are the closest on-track trio. The only other ones are the number 19 and number 45 GT3s, but we'll jump to them in a bit as Gonzalez just tried to go around the outside of Solberg there. Very ballsy move, but Solberg manages to just keep his position. Just defended nicely, did everything he had to do, got squeezed on the power, kept traction, and managed to just push the Bentley a little bit wider than they wanted to go. Good defending there from Solberg. Gonzalez wants his position. If anything, Gonzalez is a little bit quicker, I think. He's going to, once he overtakes Solberg, he'll be gone. And any move that Gonzalez makes here will also be looking to capitalise and fill that Bentley-shaped hole with a Lexus. Gonzalez just planning his opportune moves. There are very few overtaking spots. Oh, just having a look down the inside. Oh, Gonzalez has in fact lost out from that. He got himself on the curb trying to overtake Solberg down the inside of turn 10. But Solberg did leave him the room. He left him a Bentley-sized gap. Admittedly, Gonzalez did have to use the curb, and then he just rode that curb. It unsettled the car, turned in, the rear went light into Solberg, and then it was just curtains from there. Solberg quite lucky to not been affected by that contact, but Gonzalez very unlucky to have been sent round. I don't think he deserved that, but he was just trying to perhaps force a move that if he'd have waited a little bit longer, maybe it would have come. Turn 1 was probably the most opportune place to make it. So unlucky for Gonzalez there, but that has now allowed here to jump up another position. So he's net 6th now from that drama. He's having a look around the outside of the BMW of Solberg, going down into turn 1, gets on the brakes a little bit later, leaves the gap for Solberg. They're still side by side, squeezing on the power. Solberg will have the inside for turn 3, but he decides to back out. Very sensible. It's a very narrow part of the track. So very well done to here there, managing to make 2 positions in half a lap. Just waiting for Gonzalez just to lose it slightly, which he did, and then a very, very, very good move, very clean move on Solberg. So, but Gonzalez will be hunting them down, and Solberg with that 15-second penalty. He is currently going to be. If I just jump back, net 9th. I think. No, net 8th, yeah. Wilson is 9th, 16 seconds behind Solberg. So he only loses the 1 place to Gonzalez currently. If Solberg has a nice clean race, he should be able to make the most of that. Just looking at Wilson, he did get He tried to go around the outside of Sandberg there, the GT4 leader, and Sandberg just in that GT4, just perhaps lacking the downforce of the GT3, just showed him to the side of the track and into the wall. Very unfortunate there for Wilson. Whether he should have tried it round the outside there, I'm not too sure, but Sandberg probably could do very little with that. He could have perhaps given him a bit more room, but if he's going to squeeze on the power, he's always going to drift out to the left. That was a thing mentioned in this safety briefing. But while, as a result of that, Gulbrandsen did manage to make the move past Wilson, the 93 turn 1 Bentley. So perhaps Sandberg, I'm not going to suggest it was malicious, I'm not saying that, but, you know, Sandberg, turn 1, no, I won't go there. Yeah, Gulbrandsen then going past Sandberg, 9th place, 20 seconds behind Solberg, 18 seconds behind Gonzalez. So Solberg at the minute is safe from dropping down too many positions. But looking further back, Omar Badu has in fact managed to get past Wilson as well. Wilson has gone into the pit, so I imagine he's suffered some reasonably extensive damage from going into the wall caused by being squeezed out onto the grass. So that's very unfortunate for Wilson. He was in quite a good position there to fight for top 10 places, even 9th place, and 7th in fact, if he managed to close the gap to Solberg by only a couple more seconds. So that has allowed Omar Badu into the top 10. Omar making a good comeback. He was down towards the back of the entire field after that spin early on in the race, but now back into the top 10. That's a good showing from Omar Badu. And then we have Damien Yearwood in 11th in the McLaren. He is about 20 seconds back from Omar Badu and has a 16-second gap on his fellow McLaren of Dill. So very much a race for him by himself, it's turned into, just picking his way through Van der Valk right now. Van der Valk just leaving the door open, nice and sensible, no dramas there. That's the sort of standard we want to see. None of this squeezing drivers out onto the edge of the track who you're not racing. But a nice safe move there from Damien Yearwood. So flicking further back to Dill, the number 12th placed McLaren. He has a 10-second gap from Chris Corbin in 13th. Chris, obviously, at the start, got caught out with some damage. He had to pit and repair that. He came back out. He's managed to unlap himself from all of the GT4 traffic. He's 3rd on the road, technically, but of course he is a lap down in 13th. So he is sticking with the leaders, about 5 seconds off the pace of Grant Willemot, who is in the lead. But Corbin just perhaps using the leaders to try and boost himself along, to try and catch Dill. He has just over 10 minutes to make up 10 seconds. So about a second for every minute. It's doable. It's possible. Around a track like Zandvoort, which is very twisty, a lot of time to be gained through the corners. It is possible. So, just looking at the lead grouping, Grant Willemot has a healthy 2.5 second gap to Olivier. Nothing really seems to have changed from earlier, other than when we look further down, but we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, Grant Willemot, 2.5 second gap to Olivier. Not too much drama. They're making their way through, will be making their way through the back markers of the GT4s very shortly. Then there's Chris Corbin just following behind. Rantala in 3rd place. Good comeback from Rantala, of course, starting quite far down the grid. We'll call it a mixed reverse grid that it started with. Coming back up into 3rd, and with Wilhelm Weyrich unfortunately retiring from the race, that couldn't really have gone much better for him. Of course, he's still trying to hunt down Olivier and Willemot, but with 10 minutes left to make up again about 10 seconds, will be a difficult task, and one we'll keep an eye on through the rest of the race. And then Dan Tesauro in the Aston V12 in the Brexit car. in the Brexit car. Why, Dan? Why? Especially when you put it on the roof. It's just obvious. Oh, right. Okay, moving on. Brendel in 5th, 4 seconds behind Tesauro. A good showing from Brendel. He's managed to just sort of find a gap. He had couple of incidents at the start of the race involving, I believe it was actually Solberg and Gonçalves earlier in the race, but managing to just keep things together. So Solberg and Gonçalves are in fact side by side going down to turn 1, or they were. So Gonçalves has managed to fixate himself again upon Solberg. He's managed to catch up. So that does mean the Lexus of here must have had, yeah, he's dropped down to 8th place. So he must have had either a spin or coming together with someone, and has dropped further back to 8th. That's very unfortunate for here after making a very, very good move around the outside of Solberg earlier in the race. But Solberg will take that. It does in fact mean he has a 17-second gap to here. So again, he only loses the 1 place currently to Gonçalves. And this, of course, Gonçalves is probably thinking, you know, I don't need to make the move. I've got the position in the bag. I just need to not make a mistake, and the position will be mine come the end of the race. However, that's not how racing drivers think. Racing drivers are all Gonçalves going into the back of Solberg there. Interrupting my sentence, Gonçalves, that is the 2nd time he has done that. Again, Gonçalves coming off 2nd best as well to Solberg, but the fact he has not managed to put off Solberg, he can scarper away. Gonçalves can probably get away with not getting a penalty there. Not really, only really impacting his own race. Of course, I don't imagine there's much damage to that BMW, but the back will be caved in a little, paintwork will be scuffed. Any damage to perhaps the rear axle or brake lines yet to be seen. But a bit of a silly move there from Gonçalves, just outbraked himself into the back of Solberg, so Solberg can scarper away, but is still net 7th after that penalty. So let's just see who's close together on track. There's the number 22 and 19 GT3 cards of, yeah, the first place battle. That has come together closely, very nicely. The first battle, Grant Willemot still in the lead, only just by 2/10. Dominic Olivier just having a look up the inside now, going into turn 11, throwing it up, just cuts across the front of Grant Willemot. A little bit of contact there, no harm done. Grant Willemot manages to get the undercut and back on the power ahead of the Aston Martin there. Opportunistic move from Olivier, just couldn't quite get it stopped. But good defensive driving from Willemot just to get the undercut and go back past. That is a sign though, Olivier has closed the gap quite extensively by 2.5 seconds when we last checked. Just running wide, coming into the final section slightly, perhaps just a little messy there from Olivier, but you know he's got the pace to try and catch Willemot in these last 5 minutes. The gap now up to 7/10 with that slight error there from Olivier has allowed Willemot to pursue, but through turn 1, no dramas. Olivier managed to make up a hint of a 10th. Perhaps Aston Martin slightly better on the brakes. See how this unfolds further we go through the race. This is the, I believe, closest on-track battle on the track, so we'll stick with it for now, as it is a change for the lead as well, potentially. Olivier just trying to make, again, as much time as he can up through the field. Although, while this is happening, as we wait for Olivier to just make up some time on Willemot, Dami Ayo and Van der Valk are having a good old battle in the GT4 category, just slightly further back on track. These two have been together all race, the 16th and 17th pairing. This is 2nd and 3rd for the GT4s, with Sandberg still in the lead. So these are all valuable points for the start of the championship. Dami Ayo, Mr. Old Reliable, as I said before, champion of last season, will be hoping to hold off Van der Valk for the remainder of this race. But it'll be very difficult on a track like this, especially with GT3s coming through, to see how that unfolds. We'll give it a little bit of time with the Aston Martin at Cesaro coming through in 4th place. In fact, just behind him is Brendel. Brendel has managed to make up quite a large amount of time there on Cesaro, so as those two make their way past the GT4s, huge amount of contact. So I say little, big amount of contact That was Van der Valk outbraked himself while Tesoro was trying to go around the outside. Van der Valk clips the rear quarter of the Aston, sends him round into the gravel. Tesoro, should he have been there? I'm not sure, but it's a move to go for. Van der Valk probably wasn't expecting him to be there. Braked at the same point, just clipped him, sent him round. That's very unfortunate for Tesoro. They're losing out on 4th place to Brendel. Brendel just snuck his way through, stayed out of trouble. And now Tesoro does have Solberg for company. Or just behind, a second behind. Of course, Solberg's not really the issue. He'll have a 15-second penalty. It's Gonzalez he's got to worry about, as they just passed Malik Martin, who was our pole sitter at the start of this race, currently down in 23rd. Malik staying out of the way, nice and sensibly. Just making way through. That seems to be calmed down. But the leaders, 19 and 22, have found themselves next to each other. Again, just going into turn 12. We'll flick back to them, the leaders of this race, the closest, or another close pairing on track. Olivier just not having a sniff, just constantly harassing the mirrors of that BMW, just making himself known. That's all you need to do around a track like this. If you're looking in your mirrors, you're constantly going to be worried where they're going to turn up. And a car as good on the brakes as the Aston could find himself in a place you don't want rather quickly. So going now into turn 1, Olivier's just got a little bit of the slipstream. Willemot defending early, giving no opportunity for Olivier to try and make his way through. As we again see, there's that Damien Yearwood moving out the way. Oh, there was a little bit of contact there, it seems, from Olivier and Willemot. I'm not sure if it was contact or just Willemot getting on the grass or the curb. Olivier is a fair driver. If there was contact, he will let him back through. A flash of the lights there from Willemot. He probably feels there was contact, but Olivier not showing any sign of giving it back, so maybe it was all fair game. But it will assume for now it was a brilliant move by Olivier and a unfortunate mistake for Willemot. But Willemot just having a look up the inside. Olivier shows no sign. He has backed out slightly, so again there might have been some contact there, and Olivier's just thought, let's be safe, let's let him back through. He's now having a look around the outside going into turn 11, just perhaps trying to get the undercut, squeeze on the power a little bit earlier. Look, he can just shove the nose of that Aston right up the inside of that BMW. Now a move around the outside down into 12 is a daring one, but that BMW just manages to pull away without too many problems. The back marker at Sandberg GT4 not proving any hassle either, but they are still approaching traffic. There is the number 86 McLaren of Wilson to come, as well as a couple of GT4s. There is the 840 of Derek Rudder, who I think just found himself on the gravel. He has managed to just keep out the way. Nicely done. And they are also still approaching some further GT4s. Kevin Manning and Rangsetter are also on the list. They are having a good battle, but this is the final lap of the race, so I am going to stay with Willemot and Olivier. In fact, Rantala is also not too far behind, 3.5 seconds, but they'll have to take a lot to make up that amount of time in the race. In fact, we can now see Rangsetter trying around the outside of Kevin Manning. A little bit of door-to-door contact, that's okay. They are giving it away. Neither of them is going to try and relent this to allow the GT3s to pass. Oh no! Oh no! Rangsetter just ran wide onto the grass, trying to create as much room as possible. Perhaps and then a bump through her across the track, across the front of Kevin Manning, and then into the side of Olivier. That has let Grant Willemot off the hook massively there. Fair play to Willemot, he scarpered away, wasn't caught up in that, but very unfortunate for Olivier with that. Rangsetter just perhaps did slightly the wrong thing being on the grass, but just trying to make as much room as possible. Didn't want to give up the position. Valiant fight from Rangsetter, but that has cost her and Manning some decent points there. Kevin Manning, I believe, has retired to the pit lane as a result. I think his car suffered internal damage, but we can quickly flick to the leader, Grant Willemot. He's coming through the last section of the track. Managing to hold on to the lead. He's coming round the last corner for the final time to take the feature race win for round 1 of the CSM ACC Championship. Well done, Grant Willemot. Quickly followed by Rantala as well. He managed to do very well to come up to second place. Another lap or two, he might have just had a sniff at Grant Willemot. Grant just turning traction control off, lighting it up. Why not? Chris Corbin finished in 11th. Damon Yearwood in 12th. Good comeback from Chris Corbin there. From having that incident early on. Olivier finishing in 3rd. He would have felt 2nd place, if not 1st place, should have been his. We'll hear from him after the race, as we will hear from a majority of our drivers after the race, so stick around and we'll finish that off as well. Looking further back, 4th place, Brendel. Good drive from Brendel to come back to 4th place. They were sitting down about 7th to begin with. Dan Tesaro just giving Oscar Sandberg a little push. Maybe Oscar ran out of fuel. And then Truls Solberg in 8th place in the end after his 15-second penalty. That did, in fact, mean Jeremy Gonzalez managed to keep hold of 7th place. Then we have Goldbranson, the 93 Bentley, coming home in 9th. Omar Badu in 10th. Then in 11th, as I said, Chris Corbin, Damien Yearwood in 12th, Dill in 13th, and Wilson was about to cross the line in 14th place. He was marginally in front of Grant when he crossed the line. So Wilson coming home in 14th. Oscar Sandberg, the victor for the GT4 category. What looked like a bit of a troubling start to begin with. Jumping further down the order, managed to come back and pull out a commanding lead for the GT4 field. Damiao in 2nd for the GT4, 16th overall. Damiao was having a bit of a battle with Van der Valk until Van der Valk got caught up with the GT3 Aston of Tesaro. So Sandberg, AO and then Kurt Keith, the podium for the GT4s. Van der Valk did earn himself a 10-second penalty for the altercation with Tesaro, but he manages to keep hold of 4th place. Rangsetter coming home in 19th. She did have, again, an altercation with the GT3. A different Aston, the V8 Vantage of Olivier, managing to hold on to 5th place, as there's a bit of fun happening on the cool-down lap. And then Javon Codrington in 20th, 6th place for GT4s. McBride in 21st, 7th place, and then Malik Martin rounding off the finishers of the race. Kevin Manning, Derek Rudder, Charlie Martin staying in the server, but unfortunately did not complete the race. A cleaner race than the first one. I think we can say that. Of course, it still wasn't ideal, but it was some very good racing shown by all of the field, and a much better showing. So well done, drivers. A thoroughly enjoyable race. Zandvoort not a favourite amongst the drivers, as we can just see Sandberg just trying to perform some donuts. He's celebrating his maiden GT4 win, and a good way to start the first round of the CSM Championship. So we'll have just a 30-second, 1-minute silence so you can rest your weary ears from my droning, monotonous voice, and then we will jump into the drivers' debriefing room and just get a few thoughts of the drivers. With any luck, Damien Yearwood won't be screaming his lungs off again. So, speak to you in a second.
I was trying to turn around. I clipped Jamal Boutou, and just really annoying. I totally wrecked the car. I just retired. So.
Was it you that spun me around in the hairpin there?
Coming out of the chicane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to join like in a straight line.
Yeah.
And then I think I was just drifting over, and you came around the outside, and I literally just clipped the rear of your car, like.
Yeah, I tried to give you. I was on the grass there.
Yeah, I watched the replay. I was like, oh god, it's so annoying. Sorry.
Hello, everyone.
43 seconds of damage there. I managed to go up to P9 again, though, but it's okay. Shit happens.
Yeah.
Commentators are here, by the way.
So, yeah, I am here. Hello. Sorry if you heard that on the stream and are adverse to that kind of language, but we're all people at the end of the day. So, well done, drivers. That was a better showing than the first race. I think we can agree. Still a couple of incidents, but there always will be around Zandvoort. Good fun to watch. There was some good racing happening throughout the GT3 and GT4 fields. Did provide a lot of entertainment for myself and Brian. So, I'll start off with our overall winner, Grant Willimot. Grant, you in here? I believe you are. How are you?
Heart rate's coming down.
It was a bit touch and go with Olivier at the end there, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I felt like it matched his pace when we were both in clean air, but I felt I was getting so unlucky with the GT4s. And after the first race and all the incidents, I was just trying to keep it as clean as possible. I was just didn't want to ruin any of their races.
Yeah, I think that came across in your driving style. It was very controlled and methodic, but a little bit of a break there at the end with Olivier being the unfortunate receiver of a GT4.
Yeah, I had the big map up on the left-hand side of my screen, seeing where the cars were, and I thought I was going to get a clean run to the end, but all of a sudden there were two GT4s fighting for position, I believe, and I went for a gap and I managed to make it through, but he didn't. Yeah, it was, again, I think a lot of things fell my way that race.
I think it was a little bit of luck, but also tremendous amount of skill. The opposite of your result from the sprint round. Sorry. So you must be happier with that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the reverse grid and starting at the front, it's just sort of not gifted, but a little bit easier. I don't know why I was on the front row. But yeah, I just tried to keep it consistent, respect the GT4s, and then I think there were several cars behind me who were faster, but I don't know what happened in the races. I just tried to keep mine super clean.
A sensible display. It's worth noting, for those that didn't quite understand, the reverse grid, in case you didn't notice, didn't work. Malik Martin found himself on pole in a GT4, which I thought was hilarious. But I think the GT3s probably didn't deserve that. But yeah, thank you, Grant. Good win there. We'll come now to Rantala, if Rantala is in the room.
I am.
Perfect. A completely different race compared to the sprint round.
Yeah, I mean, I started like P21, I think, and it was quite a hectic start, I must say, and I just tried to be really careful. I think there was some people not checking their radar and some stuff happening on the start, but I actually was surprised that everybody didn't pin it. And I mean, after that I just went for it. I tried to be fast, but of course if there was GT4s fighting, I just waited them, and passed them after the corner. Like Grant said, try to respect them because they're still driving their own race.
Yeah, that is a very good point. But do you think that Grant was yours for taking, given a couple more laps? I mean, you made up about a second in the last two laps alone.
Yes.
I mean, I think if the race would be longer, I mean, Zandvoort in general is a hard track to overtake. BMW is an insanely big. It's width of the track. But, I think I also had some mistakes there. I clipped the grass, I think, after turn 9 when you go into the right. And if you clip the grass, you really cannot steer. And I lost 5 seconds there. So, I mean, I just did a mistake there. I couldn't catch him in a time. But yeah, we would have seen what happened if the race was longer. But must say it was fun.
Good. Well, hopefully in the future rounds we get to see you two a bit closer on track. Now to Olivier. Commiserations on losing out to second place in the way you did. An unfortunate freak accident. I was watching from the helicam. There was nothing you could have done, but annoyed, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, just in it for the fun today. Turned up today. Haven't turned a saddle in 4 months and jumped straight into quali. So I finally found my legs in the feature race and was catching Grant in clean air. Little by little, kept making a few mistakes, and I let him back by a second time after passing him not too cleanly. It's very difficult to pass on ACC, man. The cars constantly move back and forth when you're battling them, so it's really hard to predict, how close you can get, and then all of a sudden they appear. So it was fun. I let him back by and saw the other cars coming up, thought I could squeeze through. I kind of predicted that would happen, but I got the shitty end of the stick there, so I'll take it.
Well, better things to come next round, hopefully for you.
Yeah, for sure. I'll definitely try to get some practice in and hopefully be able to give the big boys a run for their money.
That's what I like to hear. So before moving on to the GT4s, I'd just quite like to jump to Jeremy Gonzalez. Jeremy, you had a bit of a hard time trying to get past Solberg, but it provided some great racing. But a couple of incidents from yourself.
Yeah, I just been dealing with, well, I guess Dominic was saying as well, dealing with a problem that anytime you get close to a car, the car is moving back and forth, so it's hard to get an idea of where the car is. And then quite a few times he was moving a lot under braking, doing more than one movement. So I would expect him to be somewhere, and then he would just change direction again, which by that time it was too late for me. And it just ended up with an incident. So I think realistically a word needs to be had that you need to only make one movement under braking, because that's really how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, well, that can be a topic for the next driver's briefing or once the stream is over. But thank you, Jeremy, for your words. I'll now jump to Oscar, who was the victor of that feature race for the GT4s and who was working on his donut skills. Oscar, another win, happy?
The donuts in the end was okay, so I think I need to work a little on them. I think a little. No, to be honest, this communication between GT3 and GT4 makes this series interesting. I think this what we have learned from today we can take with us to the rest of the championship, from everyone, both the GT4 and the GT3 drivers. This the communication between the cars, and also this understanding of, for example, I'm sitting in a GT4 car. I took at least out one car because he placed him wrong, and I understeered into him because that's how to drive a GT4 car. I could not keep my line and understeered into him, and I'm very sorry for that. It was not my intention, but my car just went straight, and that was the line. And I think some of the GT3 guys need to drive a little GT4 to get an understanding of this multiclass thing. But from there on, everything went fine, and as long as I get the clean pass on Mr. Keith this time, then everything went fine. And then
perfect. Yeah, it was a little bit of a baptism of fire for our new joinees, Zandvoort Multiclass. There was a discussion beforehand about the track choice. You stand by Zandvoort being a good choice to begin with.
I mean, nobody here should come in and just come into the championship without practice or doing anything. So theoretically, this practicing is for every track. I mean, if we have been starting on a boring track like Spa, then it have been different, of course. But why not take a track which not on the calendar very often to make some different racing, and that's what we got these two races.
Yeah, it was definitely entertaining, though I'd watch what you say about Spa. That was a bit blasphemous.
In the GT4, Spa is not the best, so I can say it that way. In GT3, I love it. In GT4, it's a little long.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Oscar, and well done for your wins there. Next, come to Dami Ao. Dami, sort of how we left off last year, finishing in second place.
Yeah, always the bridesmaid and never the bride. Yeah.
Sometimes the bridesmaids are prettier, but just don't mention it.
That's all right. I'm a pretty boy.
But are you happy with second place?
Yeah, considering how the race, there was chaos felt like chaos at the start. It was just lots of cars everywhere. So I'm happy I could keep it together. And yeah, Oscar, I couldn't keep you behind me. I tried, and then you just found your way past with GT3, and then all I saw were your brake lights after that. So yeah. It's like you said, back to where we were last season, just watching everyone else pull away from me and not having the pace to keep up sometimes.
Well, you say that. I mean, you were having a good battle with Van der Valk as well. You were holding him at bay quite nicely. I don't know if you felt it was pretty evenly matched, or you were sort of scrapping for position.
No, yeah, that's a good point, actually. He caught up to me over 3-4 laps, and then right when I was defending from him, he got into an incident with a GT3 behind me. I think it was the 42. Yeah, and yeah, that just let me pull away again. So it'll be interesting to have a few more battles with him through the rest of the season. Actually, now you mentioned that.
Definitely
Looking forward to
it. definitely. And I'll come to Kurt Keith then as well. Third place in the GT4 grid. Would you like to have done a bit better, Kirk?
For sure. I'm actually quite surprised I finished third in the end, considering the car was underperforming because it defaulted back to the safe setup and the pressures were totally out. So I was finishing at 21 psi on one side of the car, so it was understeering like a ship rather, like a boatly rather than an actual road car. But there we go. So I think if I had more practice time and the setup was there, then I definitely could have taken the fight to maybe P1 or P2 in that one. But still, podium's a podium, and it's good points for me and Damie, so I'll take that at the end of the day.
Very good points. Very good points, as in points all round. I messed that up, didn't I? Right, and the final word, I'm just going to jump to Rangsetter if she's in here.
I'm here.
Perfect.
MVP.
Just a little bit of altercation on the last couple of laps. It looked like you were just trying to scoot across the grass.
Yeah, it was like I got pushed out, and then I had to go into the grass to not crash, and then the car punted me, and we all crashed.
Do you think it was you'd have had the position? I think you were fighting with. I think it was Manning you were with. Do you think you'd have had him on pace?
I don't know. The one in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I was like, he was slowing me down a lot, but it was hard to overtake.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to all the drivers as well for taking part. This has been round 1 of the CSM ACC Championship. A baptism of fire is the only way I could explain that. I had a lot of fun commentating. I know Brian was probably busy chucking to himself. There are a couple incidents, but if that's anything to go by, a great first round for the championship. And thank you for watching. I've been Chris Reardon, and I will always be Chris Reardon, so come back later on, watch the next round in 2 weeks' time, same time of day, and we will see you all then. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.